Elizabeth from Elpis Astrology at elpisastrology.com. Thanks for joining me today. So I'm going to do the first half of December 2019 and bring us up to some of the aspects that are happening, including that full moon in Gemini on the 11th. So we start off on the 2nd of December 2019 with Jupiter at its final degree, 29 degrees of Sagittarius. And this, for some of us, could be a time where Jupiter gives us some gifts and surprises us with some lucky things in our life. I would suggest that those that have been working very hard while this Jupiter has been in Sagittarius for a whole year, you may actually have something very lucky come your way that'll certainly make you feel better, or a gift of some sort. That's typically what we look at when we look at Jupiter entering its final stages of a sign, but in particular its home sign of Sagittarius. So we have Jupiter ingressing now into Capricorn on the 3rd of December. So as you recall, we've already got Saturn there and Pluto, and the south nodes, of course, are still there too. So now we have Jupiter joining this Capricorn party. And certainly, you know, Jupiter in Capricorn makes things a little more conservative. We like to do things by the letter of the law, that type of thing. It's tradition, status. So these will be more the things that we are going to be concerned about. And then when we group that, of course, with Saturn and Pluto, we're going to be transforming those individually as well as collectively once we start getting into 2020, especially that January kickoff, which I've spoken about before, as well as many other people. So I won't go into that again at this time. So on the 4th of December, we have a really nice aspect. We have Venus, which will be sextiling Mars, and it'll be in Scorpio. So certainly Mars is very happy in Scorpio. It's a co-ruler of Scorpio. It's at 9 degrees of Scorpio. Not too far off, actually, the Mercury going direct degree point, which was 11 degrees. But just on its own, Venus sextiling Mars is an opportunity for some maybe deeply sexual relationships, opportunities for that. It can also deepen an existing relationship. These things, these opportunities to do this may come up at this time as well. We also have Mars trining the north nodes of the moon in Cancer at 8 degrees. So that's pretty close, that's within a degree. So this is also important. So it may be some kind of fateful time with regards to relationships, and with a sextile, the Venus sextiling Mars, those are really opportunities should you decide to take them. Whereas the trine is just really favorable energy, and the favorable energy is Mars giving you action and impetus to implement your destiny path, right? That's the north nodes of the moon in Cancer, especially as it relates to you being nurtured, you feeling at home somewhere, that the relationship that you're in actually feeds you, maybe literally, but it's all about comfort and peace in where you find your home. You're going to be able to take action with regards to that. And maybe even for some, it might be, you know, getting a new home. Who knows, right? Because that Cancer is ruled by the moon, and this is your mother, this is all your past habit behaviors. So these are other things that we could also be given the impetus to leave behind and seek out those things that are good for us. And that could be changing habits, as well as changing up our home, right? So the next thing we have happening on the 11th of December 2019 is the full moon in Gemini. So Gemini basically revolves around communication. It tends to be more social type interaction of communication, but it's a lot of thinking. It can be nervous energy as well. Your mind may move a lot quicker. Just don't let that monkey mind take over, because this is a full moon, so it's going to be increasing all these tendencies to want to talk, communicate, and fast thinking, that type of thing. But what's interesting is next year, 2020, in fact, this will be May 2020, we will have a Venus retrograde, and it's going to be in Gemini. It'll start at 21 degrees, so it's awfully close to this almost 20 degrees full moon degree point in Gemini. But the other thing, for some of you that have followed astrology for years, or astronomy, you may remember back to June 2012, because we had Venus occult the sun. And in fact, I was lucky enough to be with a friend who was tracking this, and I was able to see Venus, this tiny little black spot, go across the sun. And this was also in Gemini. So I think there's a tie-in, and certainly I will discuss this more as we get into 2020 and talk about all the retrogrades. But this Venus retrograde May 2020 may tie back to that Venus occulting the sun in June 2012. So I'm just giving you the heads up that you might want to be thinking a little bit about that. But this full moon may nudge you and maybe remind you of something, or someone may come back. We're still operating under the Venus or the Mercury retrograde shadow period too, even though we're technically out of shadow as of the 20th of November. All right, well, I'll talk more about that later. I just thought I'd give you that kind of heads up for you to sort of, when you've got time to think about what was going on back in June 2012, because that may be up again in May 2020 when we have the Venus retrograde in Gemini. All right, so at this full moon, we actually have a number of things happening. We have Venus conjuncting Saturn at 19-20 degrees of Capricorn. We've got, obviously, then Venus conjuncting Pluto. And so when you look at the all these three planets conjuncting, we see that Venus is in the middle of them. So it's like Venus is trying to keep peace and harmony, and also sitting on the fence, by the way, between Saturn and Pluto. So Saturn's about our structures, Pluto is about transforming those. So there could be, I sort of picture this tug and push and pull type thing happening in the collective, but could happen to us personally too, with regards to our money, the person or persons we're in love with, and our value systems. So all three of those are up around this full moon. And could be some breakups in the collective coming, and it could be political breakups for that matter. It doesn't have to be personal relationships. But there's going to be some strain for sure on relationships, that the structure has to change, and or the structure that that relationship has to transform. And if it's not transforming, there's going to be a neon sign right now saying, we've got to transform this. We have to change the structure so it works for all of us. We also have Mars, like I spoke about in Scorpio, trines a now direct Neptune. And this is a passionate aspect where artistic and music and metaphysical things all just seem to take on this kind of almost magical tone. Certainly this could be tied in with our dreams. Neptune can be our dreams as well. And with, Mars being in its home co-ruler, this home sign of Scorpio, and giving it great passion and energy and drive, this could be a time around this full moon where we really feel the energy and drive to make our dreams come true. But it could be just a time where we actually enjoy some beautiful music. But with that Mars there, this really is saying about action, and it's our passion behind this, right? So our passion behind our dreams starts bubbling up at this full moon. Now we have a number of moon quincunxes here. We have the moon quincunxing Venus, Saturn, as well as Pluto. So together, this kind of speaks to obsession, possessiveness. You could be feeling cautious, especially with that Saturn on the moon. But it really is a time when we have to start making adjustments. So the full moon will be bringing this up to us. And it may be a time when we have to have some heart-to-heart talks. And the heart-to-heart talks can happen in all our relationships, not just our personal relationships of love. But in the collective, I would say, again, this is that push-pull type thing where our structures are being asked to be transformed. And with Venus there, we're associating those with our values too. So it's transforming our values. Now, Venus can also stand for, just literally women. So there may be a charge by a woman or women with regards to making these structures and transformation better for the collective. So that moon represents the collective, right? The public. So that's linking all that together. That's what I get. But it could also just be a time where we feel a little bit blue, where maybe we think things aren't turning out as well as we thought they would, and we take things a little more personally, especially with regards to our loved ones. We have Mercury in Sagittarius from the 10th of December, so that's just before this full moon, certainly is in conjunction with it. This increases us individually and collectively to seek out the truth. Now, this Mercury lasts up to the last few days of December in Sagittarius before it then ingresses into Capricorn, again joining that huge group of planets that are already in there, right? So Mercury will go into Capricorn at the end of December. So all those planets in Capricorn will be together starting literally the 1st of January 2020. When we look at this, the sun at this full moon, so the sun is going to be opposite the moon in Gemini, so it'll be in Sagittarius. So the lovely thing that a sun in Sagittarius does is it increases your optimism. It just gives a happy, outgoing frame of mind. But it also may be a time of adventure, maybe even to a foreign land. So when we look at Jupiter going into Capricorn, I spoke earlier about how we're really now looking at what kind of traditions do we have. It's our status and, of course, the law. And the law can be brought in with Jupiter as well. It's not just Saturn and Libra. So when we look at Jupiter, it is trining Uranus within a 1-degree orb. So this basically positively encourage us to respect human rights. That's what this really boils down to. It can also be a lucky time for some. So this trine is taking the abundant, lucky energy of Jupiter and throwing in a very positive, helpful way, this unexpected. So there could be some unexpected things happen that are very positive for some of us. But certainly human rights are going to be brought to the forefront, and I would say there's going to be some positive developments with regards to this. That trine really adds a positive type of energy. Jupiter, though, will also be squaring Chiron, the wounded healer. So Jupiter is all about seeking higher meaning in our life as well. So coupled with Chiron in a square, I think that's going to have us thinking, what is the meaning here of my life? Where is the higher reason for what's going on here? And this is where we're going to be casting our minds back to really try to figure out, how can I put more meaning in my life? You may even have a teacher appear at this time that helps you with that. But certainly there are lots of, psychology books and teachers and psychologists that have come through the ages that certainly can give us some of this information should we want to read about it or watch them speak about it. Certainly Maslow, Abraham Maslow is one of the key people. He could be viewed as controversial sometimes, but he had that hierarchy of needs where at the top of it was really having some meaning in your life. But certainly Jung as well spoke about these types of things and how we really, in the end, want to seek that out. We want to live in that realm of having meaning in our lives. Now, this is around the Christmas time that this video pertains to, or just before Christmas. And so it's the time of the year where hopefully we are thinking about the meaning and being thankful for things in our life at this time. Okay, well, I wish everyone a great and wonderful full moon in Gemini. My next video will be on the eclipse that's happening, a new moon eclipse that will be happening in Capricorn. Now, in the United States, it will be on the 25th, which is actually Christmas of December, so that's kind of exciting. And I'll cover a little bit about January 2, 2020 in my next video to give people a heads up. But do take care of yourself. Great time, as I mentioned in my last video, to get your own personal horoscope done. Contact me through my website and we can set something up. Take very good care, and I hope you are all enjoying the holiday season.